Welcome to Invite Sent. We are a live streaming show where we interview people and play video games.
Jason, get it in there.
Let's go. Oh, let's go. Got him. Got, son. Still there. Got him.
Excited for that. Ooh, just got in front of you. So I think that.
Got him.
Let's just get that.
He's upset. He's uninstalling the game.
Oh, watch it.
Tire. You should have seen I jumped right into it.
Oh boy.
Oh, they're
okay,
here. They're here. Hiya. How do I shoot them? I have a gun, don't I?
You don't want to. I would never probably shoot right now in Mercy because your job is to heal us.
Okay. I like to jump right into the gameplay and start asking questions because there's plenty of interviews out there that are just two faces side by side talking about something. But let's not do that. Let's ask you hard questions while you're trying to play a video game on live stream.
I don't think I can talk and clean. It's very complicated.
What is your earliest memory of playing video games?
I do remember playing Pong on, it's probably like the Intellivision.
What was your go-to game then, girl?
A lot of people probably don't know what this is, but it's Romance of the Three Kingdoms.
We had our event last year. I don't even think we were really using the term metaverse. We were just saying we're going to be in Decentraland. Or maybe we did use the term metaverse, but like it wasn't popular. Just like blockchain and crypto didn't really become popular, mainstream popular, until NBA Top Shot created those moments and then NFT became popular.
Man, I'm glad you're asking these questions.
One of my go-to games was probably NBA Street Volume 2.
Oh man, you just gotta pick like a seedless grape.
We are the best video game players in this video
on stream.
On this specific stream. Let me ask this: Why coach? Why coach esports?
I always was an avid gamer. You know, I fell in love with gaming. Life happened.
Yeah.
Got out of gaming for a while, then went back in because of some of my students. You know, I just saw all the career and college pathways, man. And I was like, I don't think nobody else is looking at it the way I'm looking at this thing.
Helps us quite a bit.
I fell off. I fell. I'm sorry.
Oh,
that's dumb.
Okay.
That's first of
that
all,
happens.
That's dumb that they have a place to. My kill cam is me. Dadgummit. Yeah, that happens in pro Overwatch. Your kill cam is yourself. Oh, I fell off the freaking thing again.
There we go.
Oh, I don't even know how to do that. I don't know. Okay. Oh no, did you die? Oh my god. Oh gosh.
Get your school into the high school esports league community. It's complete.
I think those conversations are important to normalize that it's not okay, because as long as you keep saying like this is not okay, then tell me what is okay. And then having those strong females within the gaming space is also definitely a move in the right direction.
I feel like my games were a little easier earlier when I had my lobbies. Pretty sure.
Well, those were bot lobbies. So.
Those were bot lobbies.
They didn't think they could be here. They thought it was just a boys' game, or they weren't comfortable. They didn't want to compete. That really highlighted the fact that we've got to make it more inclusive for girls. We have to make welcoming, open environments. We have to give them champions and examples of mentors that they can see and that they can be. And despite whatever culture or society says, they absolutely are a part of this world, and they can absolutely make a difference in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, art.
So this was a Kickstarter project, correct?
Yeah, so I scraped money together on my own when we went up to Kickstarter.
At what point would we say they moved from club to designated under the school's banner?
Obviously, it's going to come from support staff. Having a director of a program and then having per game coaches, I think, is a great way to help with that.
The parent interaction is a big part of it, especially for somebody who's in this industry and, fought to try and be here. What I see is, what I strive for is to show parents that gaming is a legitimate way to create a career for yourself, right? And these tournaments do that.
Is when it comes to character creators, the disabled community is not really represented in the game itself. That was something that we wanted to attack on our way in. So one of the first things we ever built was this character creator. We call them enhancements. So the wheelchairs, you've got different prosthetic,
different eye colors as well.
Heterochromia, different color eyes is heterochromia, which is like super common.
Oh, on this one, you shoot his legs out and then he falls over and okay, he disappeared for some reason. Okay.
It's one of my favorite things about Apex is I can do absolutely nothing in this period right here.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, look at this, I'm flying. This reminds me of Kingdom Hearts, which have you ever played Kingdom Hearts?
Yeah. My 9-year-old big fan.
So I won victory. Dad dab. Yes. I'm over here hitting R like I'm reloading my gun accidentally for some reason. I have no idea. Or C to crouch. And
I said, so, hey, have you heard about esports and how it's benefiting schools and how it's doing all this for students? And they said, I've heard some of it. Well, did you know that it's happening right now and it's something that you guys can jump on board with?
So I was a sergeant. I was an E5. Seeing the work that we were doing with the kids and seeing like, hey, this is something that we can really build and make a positive influence on the kids that we're working with.
Particularly, Bubba, here's my big thing, particularly people who look like me.
Yeah.
In the educational technology space and in the esports space, because I said that it's being underserved. I need for directors, I need for teachers, I need for students, I need for anybody to, when I'm talking to them, they say, oh, whoa. And they may not say it, but I know sometimes they're thinking it, well, there's this African-American, there's this black man in this space talking esports, talking educational technology. We may have not seen that before, and that's important.
Like as you said earlier, you mentioned like a parent asking about esports challenges for their kid. I think that's like wonderful. Like how many parents back in the day actually had interest in gaming when it's not like, academically viable.
And so I reached out to Mike and Kristy. Their contact information was on there. I found them through High School Esports League, which was our league, coincidentally. Kristy answered my email and she was like, you've got some technical questions. I'm gonna loop Mike in on this.
Of course.
It was just the best meeting I've ever had.
Hey, I know you're already going to be here for the tennis tournament. You got to come by, dude. Take 15 minutes out of the tennis tournament, come inside, get a breath of the air-conditioned air, and just come see what my kids are doing. And that's all it took. They just had to see it with their own eyes. Oh, these are the kids that are playing in esports. It was the kids who ate lunch by themselves, the kids with no friends, the kids, we were worried about them dropping out of school. But hey, you know what? They came to school on Friday because they wanted to play Super Smash Brothers in the library.
My name's Kyle Mullins. I'm the youth pastor and work with 6th through 12th graders. It's probably where we started spending the most time together is when we went to China and put on a soccer camp. And then got into streaming a couple months ago between my fumbling through the world and gaming all of my life, but now fumbling into streaming and stuff.
One of the things that's really important to me is the kids learn to be positive influence, to not be toxic. I've seen kids get really mean and be bullies.
If the industry truly wants to actually serve these communities, and it's going to come from the publisher down, we're going to have to provide support behind titles that can be played on the platform that these communities can actually have access to. It comes from the publisher down, it's just the empathy comes from the businesses and the consumers down.
You know what? Let me in front of you. Let me be your shield, and that way you don't die as quick.
In addition, I think one of the more exciting things I got to do is I got to be one of the official co-streamers for the Overwatch League opening day this past season.
Well, my background's actually in acting. I went to school for musical theater back in the day. I don't think I can talk and clean. It's very complicated.
All good things sometimes must come to an end. I'm actually leaving the world of education.
What?
Yep, big reveal. 6 days. I'm actually in conversations right now about my next steps.
This was announced officially here in the public on the show. Were you a CIA agent? I just have to ask you.
I was not. I did work in the Bureau of Intelligence and Research.
Oh crap! Oh crap!
Oh no! Well, it looks like.
I should have stayed so close to the edge.
ESA is the voice and advocate for the video game industry in the United States.
And we're really lucky in that we get to stay really mission driven and stay focused on the impact that this is having on students and schools. We don't really need to get into the nitty gritty of the numbers, which is, I think the thing is, like an educator, you probably fear when you're leaving the classroom.
If you'd like to be on Invite Sent to be interviewed and play video games, please go to BubbaGatter.com and request to be on the show. And I'll let you know if the invite is sent.
Oh my god.
Trade.
Yeah. Come on in, big guy. Come on. You won't.
How do you heal and how do you live? What?
She threw a black hole at us like Thanos. You can't. That's not a button. I don't have that button.
I don't have that button either.
Hey yo, good morning, gamers. Good morning, gamers. Good morning, it's gaming week, gamers. Good morning, 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 gamers. Good gamers. Good morning, gamers. Good morning, gamers. Good morning, gamers.
Welcome. Thank you so much for being here on our special Good Morning Gamers Monday, December 12th episode. It is our 4th episode here of season 1, our brand new show, Good Morning Gamers. Thank you again for those who have been watching the past few days. I've got a lot of fun stuff planned out over the next week, as well as when we come back from break. And my other show, Invite Sent, which if you were watching a minute ago on the intro, I have some really fun guests coming up in the month of January that I'm super excited about, like Danielle Johnson from TechSef down in Texas, the esports nonprofit there, Nigel Ragva from here in Kansas City, who does some amazing stuff with coding. I've also got Cassie and Jacqueline from Australia, from Down Under, and they are going to talk to us about Good Game, Well Played, which is the really cool app for helping gamers and those in branding and content. Also, Obi-Wan Nick is going to be playing some Fortnite with me. Those shows where I play games with people and interview. And then Casey from D&H, and I'm super duper excited to talk to Adam Reimer from Optic Gaming, as well as it's Optic Gaming, and it was also Team Envy. So Team Envy, he's over that organization, one of the leaders, and I'm super pumped to hang out with him and play some games. But today, I have a very special guest, and I'm so glad you're here. I see Dr. Tom, you are in LinkedIn. Thank you for being here. Trevor, you're here on LinkedIn. Thank you guys so much. If you are here in the chat, please feel free to ask questions to our special guest or to me, and we will answer those the best we can in this hour show. And we will also be asking some other questions. And feel free, if you're in Twitch or other spots, you can put !charity in the chat, !charity. And if you feel like donating to the Varsity Esports Foundation, our nonprofit charity that supports students in disenfranchised areas, low-income areas, giving them access to STEM education through curriculum, which we're going to talk about today, and through that curriculum that helps these students gain access to esports and gaming clubs in those Title I schools. We are here for those students, and we've been supporting them ever since we started this organization 3 years ago, and we'd love your support before the end of the year, so get that tax write-off. But our special guest is with us today. I'm going to bring in our very special guest, Brian Custer, Major Brian Custer, or Brian Custer M.Ed. How are you, sir? Good morning.
Good morning. Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it a ton.
Man, I am so glad to hang out and chat with you. I really only met you once in Wichita, driving down from Complete High School Maze, or however I'm supposed to say it. I say it wrong every time. It was down that road, and I saw you and your wife and your kids in the van, and I said hi to you. That's the only time I've met you. Maybe another place, but I think that was it. So I'm glad to get to chat with you, and we've been texting over the past week here. So thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to jump right in because I want to learn more about you. We've talked a little bit the past 15 minutes here off camera, and I'd love to learn a little bit more and maybe share with the world your awesomeness. So I'd love to learn, if you just give me a little background in your education, and maybe even specifically with your master's degree in education, that would be super awesome. And then we'll jump into some stuff about the Army.
Yeah, so my education, believe it or not, I got off active duty in the early 2000s. I went to Butler County Community College and got my associate's degree there. Then I transferred up to K-State, and I went through their aviation program because I wasn't 100% sure what I was going to do with life, and I love flying. And so I went through their aviation program, which gave me my bachelor's degree. And so all the time in tandem, I'm still doing the military with the National Guard. And so, years and years and years went on. I flew in the airlines for a while, and then came back on board full time with the Army. And when I did, I went through a program called MRT, which is the Master Resiliency Training there with the Army. And saying that, that 2-week program really kind of changed my life, like the way I looked at stuff, because it was specifically focused on treating PTSD, guys with PTSD, and helping them cope and building up, giving them the tools to be resilient and fight all of the things that happen when you start dealing with trauma. Well, it really drove my interest in trauma and resiliency. And so I enrolled with Concordia University because they had a master's in education specifically about resiliency and trauma. And I have a huge interest in that one because I've deployed 7 times in my 35 years.
Wow.
And I've seen guys come home, and I'm going to speak very personally here with my best friend ever. Came home, and I watched his world come apart. And he lost his wife and his kids to divorce, and had just so many things that he was fighting, and it was all solely related to the trauma just from being deployed and coming home. And saying that, he turned out to be a statistic. I myself deployed, I'm a statistic too, because one of the things they say when you come back from being deployed, everybody crashes your car. I know that sounds like a weird statistic. When you're deployed, you don't drive much, and then what little bit you drive, it's very slow, and all the things that you're not accustomed to. When you come home and you jump in the car and you're doing 70 miles down the freeway. Anyways, long story short, I was home 2 weeks and I crashed the van. So Kristy always gives me a hard time about being into statistics. But anyways, I went ahead and enrolled in the program, got my master's in it, and I've tried to use the tools that I learned there, plus what I learned in MRT to help make our soldiers more resilient. And so we train regularly on MRT in the Army. It's a big deal. They put a lot of focus on it. The command finds value in it. And if anybody doesn't know what MRT is, and if you want me to talk
please,
a little
please,
bit
yeah.
about it,
So this is you're a certified master resiliency trainer in the Army, and from what I understand, you've worked with over 6,000 soldiers in the state of Kansas.
So the Kansas Army National Guard is about just shy of about 5,000 actually. So long story short, everybody has to do MRT training because they did this training between, they developed it with the University of Pennsylvania and Walter Reed. So they came up with this stuff and said that we've got to find a way to address all these issues we're having with guys with PTSD. And I'm sure people are, current events kind of tell you that, we've been fighting wars in Iraq and in Afghanistan and everything post September 11th. And years have gone on and guys have deployed there multiple times. So you guys got guys coming home having trouble. But the Master Resiliency Training really popped up in 2009. And and I think if I remember correctly, I want to say like 80% of the people that have been through it say that it's very helpful.
Was there, when you said 2009, was there a catalyst to okay, now I think we need this? Was there a shift in understanding what mental health was in the military, or was there just a lot of trauma that we just didn't know how to handle? What was the 2009 kickoff for that reason?
Well, I think that it just was a resulting factor of guys coming back and they were just having tremendous issues. I mean, that when you start looking at like the number of soldiers, even today, 22 a day are committing suicide. People in the leadership roles in our military and in our government have decided, look, if we don't do something about this, we're going to lose a whole group of a generation of guys who serve because we don't have any way to address this. And so that's where it came from. So anyways, long story short, I've had the opportunity to teach tons and tons of courses. And the great part about MRT for the Army is, we pay in the Army, we look at a lot of things the same way that they do with MRT. So we always prep, and then we always try and sustain it, and then we try and enhance it, right? So those are just tenets that we do in the Army. Well, MRT works the same way. The whole idea is to prep them, give them the tools to sustain it, and then after they have the tools, what can we do every time I see you to enhance that, to make you better at taking care of yourself? So for those people who don't know, MRT, until I took it, not that I don't believe I was a negative person or whatever, but I will truly say that it affected me greatly when I went through the training. We were talking before we were on camera about every day when I wake up, I try and think of 3 things that makes my life good, or things that are positive or good things that have happened to me. And I believe that's the foundation for setting your mind to doing the right thing. So for most people don't know, but I have basically stage 4 metastatic cancer. So I was diagnosed originally in 2019, went through all the chemo, did all the stuff, and then had a really horrific and awesome surgery that gave me a cool side pipe. And the Army decided—
a side what?
Yeah, side pipe. I have a colostomy bag, so
Gotcha.
I'm not ashamed of that at all. It's kind of a weird deal, but I refer to it as the side pipe. And people give their ostomy stuff a name, so mine's Quasimodo. And so, long story short,
you are a positive person. This is
the Army had me to prove that I could still wear my body armor. I could still do all my stuff. And so, long story short, fit for duty. And so we thought we had it beat. So 2 years pass. And I finally go to my very first scan that's more than 3 months. So I do a full 6 months break between scans, and they find cancer again. So so I've had what they call a cancer reoccurrence. And so when it's like that, it's considered stage 4. Well, why is that important? Because man, MRT and the training that I did with, I say training, but basically the things I learned when I was doing my master's degree gave me all the cool coping mechanisms to realize that even though I have incurable cancer, I'm going to be okay. It's going to be all right. You know what I mean? And so I'm able to, use all of those tools that I learned at MRT, and then plus the stuff I learned in trauma and resiliency training, to be okay with the fact that, it's incurable. There's nothing I can do about it, but it doesn't have to change the quality of my life. I don't have to make bad decisions because I'm busted down because I have stage 4 cancer, So 14 rounds of chemo, and I'm still here. I'm laughing about it and joking. I go to work every day. The adjutant general of the state of Kansas is always like can't believe I come to work every day regardless. And so, but I truly believe that's because of that. But leading to the master's degree, Concordia did a really good job, man. They were really focused on, they had a really good group of instructors that were, bona fide, they were legit when it came to talking about trauma and resiliency. And a lot of people refer back to, there was a movie called Paper Tigers, and it talked about ACEs or, kids that are affected by childhood trauma. Childhood trauma. Well, I'm one of those kids.
I hear you're a foster child. Is that right?
Yeah, as a foster kid, man, I bumped around homes all my life, and I aged out at 18, and that led to me joining the military. But here's the deal: when they say, my ACEs score is an 8, so if anybody wants to go and look that up, I've had some trauma in my life. So, long story short, thank God I joined the Army and I had MRT, because, like I said, until I knew and understand what was happening, I had gone through my life when you'd think, oh man, why am I doing this? Or why is this happening to me? But it opened my eyes to, there are truly people out there know and understand and can say, this is why it's happening. And that my master's degree were those people. They were like, this is why this is happening. And this is what's going to happen. And this is why the resulting factor. Right. So taking those, it opened my eyes. It's real. It's not somebody making up something. I mean, it's truly, and I'm proof positive that the stuff works.
100%. Yeah,
for real. And so
that's what I was thinking. We talk about expertise. I mean, your expertise is not just going to school to learn these things. Your expertise in the first 15 minutes here, we've been covering your education and what you've learned through education, but also what you've lived through in trauma through a 18 years, and it sounds like up to 18 in the foster system, as well as going through cancer treatment and working with these soldiers also, who I don't know if there's any how that affects you hearing their stories. But I mean, that's actually something I want to ask is, let's go this side. And there's some people in the chat here who really appreciate what you're saying. Random Rick on Twitch, God bless you, man, for hanging in there to live more life. And thank you for the follow, Random Rick. Appreciate it as well. What I wanted to ask was, is there any good stories, like stories that are really resilience from your soldiers where they've overcome these challenges, or you had some success stories with soldiers with their overall mental health? Maybe one or two examples that you can maybe share out of what you've learned, what you've been through, what you've shared, what you've been learning to be able to help these soldiers face that mental health resilience.
Yeah, and I have tons of stories, but I think the one that stands out the most in my mind, and this soldier is not with the Kansas Army National Guard, but I just had an opportunity to be part of going through the program. But long story short, and I'll just be frank, in the Army, we deploy a lot and we're gone a lot. And so lots of times, and all of us, and I say all of us, but the majority of us that have kids, we try so hard to be good dads and good moms when we're home and make up for the time we're gone. And so long story short, this event that happened, he deployed, and while he was deployed, there was a person, he did not live on post. He lived out in the community. There was somebody out in the community in where he was living that was molesting his kid. And so long story short, when he came home, and finally they couldn't figure out what was happening with their child, but through all the processes you do to try and identify what's causing the issue with your children, they identified that there was somebody locally that was molesting his child. So, well, people forget then in the military that we're fighters. That's what we do. We're gunfighters. And our initial thing is to protect and do the stuff that we do. So imagine a guy who's highly trained in all sorts of weapon systems finding out that somebody was molesting his child. So, I mean, you can imagine where this could go very quickly, because I got the sense just from talking to him that his initial response was to go down there and kill him.
Wow.
And so, but the great thing is that there was enough support and people who knew that he was about to have this traumatic event happen to him that they were able to help him cope and get through it. And of course they, lots of work with their child and getting everything. And obviously the guy got arrested and got thrown in jail and stuff like that. But that one stands out more than anything, because if he didn't have the tools, man, I really do believe that he would have kitted up and gone down there and shot that guy in the face. And I hate to be like that, but Army guys are like this. I mean, they train us to fight and win our nation's wars. That's what we do. We're warriors. When wars aren't going on, we work in the office and train and do all this stuff. But when it comes down to it, and this is why there's so much PTSD, you're sending young men and women into the fray. They're going into the breach and doing things in the name of our country that most people don't experience. And so they come home and they've got issues because they've seen horrific things. And it's not easy. For all the guys that play Call of Duty, love the game, it's awesome, blah, blah, blah. But you don't regenerate when somebody shoots you. People die on the battlefield and they're for your friends and stuff like that. And so I say this, where does all the trauma come from? Those type of events. And so when you talk about like, how does it affect you and how does it affect me? But when I hear stories like that, because when I teach MRT, that's one of the things that we do. We talk about things that are traumatic in our lives. And to have something like that pop up, you're like, wow, thanks for sharing, because it's hard to share
It
somebody.
is. Yeah, it is definitely. Well, Well, I was going to ask how has MRT evolved since 2009 for what you've seen and maybe your experiences? I mean, you're talking about these different experiences with, maybe success in overcoming obstacles, but then struggles with mental health still affecting maybe people's lives to ending their lives. And how has MRT evolved from it in 2009 to now, and there's opportunities or challenges that the military and you're facing right now to overcome the struggles with these soldiers that are struggling through PTSD? What have you seen different since you started?
Well, I see the acceptance being what's different. Like when it first came out, there was a lot of people kind of like, man, I don't know if that's going to work. But once people really kind of got into it, it seems like anybody that I've been around, 99%, especially if they've been through any form of the training, whether at the unit level or whatever, when you start talking to them, they're like, yeah, that gave me an opportunity to kind of think about stuff and blah, blah, blah. And I think of my, in the military, really, if you think about it, you have 18 to 24-year-old young men and women who are basically the cogs that make the big mother green roll. So when you talk to them, they've been away from home or something like that. To have that, training helps them kind of cope with whatever, and they'll tell you, dude, that worked for me. And I just had to quit catastrophizing about all the terrible things that were happening and focusing on what really was happening. And I think about this, just moving on to something kind of cool about the esports stuff.
Please.
What a great way to build teams and do stuff. So in the military, we focus on building teams, and I know we talked about this before we're going on. And I was thinking about it while you were doing your intro.
Yeah.
When we're building teams in the military, because there's lots of stuff that we have to do, but everybody brings their own baggage to the team. And so stuff like MRT and trauma stuff is super important for starting the conversation to unpack that bag and make them a more efficient and effective part of your team. You know what I mean? The acceptance level. And I remember, and I'm going to talk about Kristy and Mike a little bit here. So like a long time ago when Kristy was just principal, and I say just, when she was principal of Complete High School Maze, those kids that are coming in there, holy smokes, man, their lives. I think about me being a foster kid and bouncing around. I hear their stories and it's like, holy smokes. And they're showing up every day. Anyway, so when Mike approached Kristy about doing esports in school, Kristy came home and was telling me about it. I said, man, that's awesome. I'd love to play games in school. But never would I have thought for 1 second how ingenious that is, because we talked about how the kid who's like totally in the emo, he's got purple hair and rings in his lip and blah, 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 is a teammate with the guy who's the middle linebacker on the high school football team. You know what I mean? And they have that mutual level of respect and they communicate. And for that, it sets the foundation for them to have conversations outside of esports. When you see them, it's like, hey man, hey, what's up, brother? How you doing? Da, da, da. Where before esports, would they have ever talked to each other? Probably not, And I can't speak because my high school was really little, so everybody knew everybody. But when I look at schools like Mace, where they're gigantic and have 800 kids in your class and blah, blah, blah.
Wow.
Man, it's like, what are the chances that, the guy who's who can dunk on the basketball team is going to talk to the guy who plays in a garage band and just has a whole different lifestyle? Well, esports in school is going to change the fabric of that, because these kids are intermingling like never before. And I think when the COVID shutdown started happening and they started sending kids home, what a horrific thing we did to our kids. What a terrible thing. And I think esports, the more folks actually really accept the fact that it's not just gameplay, it's about team building. It's about, building a culture in your school. It's about, friendship and loyalty and all this stuff. that, believe it or not, in the military, we put a ton of emphasis on.
Right, right.
And so I see these young kids, building up their teams and fighting and doing all these things. And I think, fighting the good fight to win for their team. And what are the chances that was going to happen before esports? None. Very little. And so I think it's pretty awesome.
So jumping into the conversation about gaming and esports at schools. And if you're new here and you're watching today and you haven't heard me yell about esports over the past 3 years, esports in schools, classic esports, it is video game clubs, esport clubs in schools where students get together, competitively play against other schools and earn scholarships and learn things like teamwork and critical thinking and cooperation and all sorts of really good skills, problem solving that they can take into their college and career lives, or even to the military. And if you've ever watched me on different shows, I've loved interviewing people in the military, and it's great to interview Major Custer here today and talk about trauma resiliency and education, as well as gaming and esports that we're going to jump into now as we wrap up the show here in the next 30 minutes. If you guys don't know who his famous wife is, it's Dr. Kristy Custer. She's one of the foremost leaders, her and Dr. Mike Russell, of the gaming concepts, gaming and esports curriculum that is world renowned and downloaded over 400,000 times in 40 different countries back when it was on the Microsoft Education platform, for helping high schools and middle schools and even colleges use that curriculum to help create opportunities for, just like the students you mentioned, the one on the basketball team and the one who doesn't have anything to do with school and all the belonging that we talk about. But if you're here learning for the first time, we're gonna dive into this, because what I'd love is your perspective from this person who is probably talking and having lots of conversations with your wife and with Mike about education and trauma and resiliency and teamwork and leadership, and how that may have affected and may led to even greater information given in the curriculum that I get to be a part of. I get to help dabble in the curriculum and do some things with Mike and Kristy, and how maybe that has shaped the curriculum because of your experiences and maybe even your feedback or pillow talk or whatever it may be. But I want to dive into, what do you think has gone into the curriculum that Mike and Kristy have worked on in gaming concepts that maybe your perspective has, led to some extra words and some extra thoughts on how to write this curriculum based on education that your experiences, mental health, and trauma and resiliency?
Well, that's a really great question, because Kristy, being a principal at an alternative high school where all of the students are at risk, they got really super smart on like ACEs and all those things when they talk about, childhood, trauma. And she lives with one. So, and when she was actually learning about that years ago, a lot of times we'd have conversations about things that I do because of the results of what happened to me as a kid. Like, and I'm going to use this for example. I'm crazy about money. Like, being a poor kid with nothing. I'm Scrooge, man. It's hard for me to let the money go, man, because I didn't have nothing growing up, right? And so that's just a resulting factor of how it was when you grow up so poor that you don't have shoes and stuff like that. When you grow up and you get a job and you have money, you're like, man, it's hard to part with the money, man, because you don't want to be without it. So all those years that she was, a principal at this school, well, not just that, but when she was teaching, she was part of the staff and she was a teacher and she's doing all this stuff, and then became the principal and she's trying to implement things to help these kids. I think that was the very first how I might have been part of the process for them to come up with what they're doing. So a lot of times she can bounce stuff off me and ask me, and being married almost 30 years, she knows just about all of the horrific things that happened to me. So whether it be in the military or, as a kid. So saying that, when they started writing the curriculum, gaming concepts, I'm 100% interested in what Kristy does all the time. So I'll go down, hey, what you doing? What you writing about? Hey, let me read that. And so I've had an opportunity to watch this since the event horizon. So from the time that they decided to do that, and then how it's just slowly grown into what it is now, it's been incredible. And the fun part too is because my master's degree is in trauma and resiliency, and I know some shit about trauma and resiliency. And so saying that, reading it, and when they put the mental health moments in there, what a great idea to start the conversation with your kids in class. I mean, remember, I said this before we got on here live, but it's not just gaming in school. It really is. It really is something like, and I'm searching for a really great word to say it, but there's a reason behind why you're doing it, and it's not just to play games. And so saying that, using those mental health moments and using all the different teaching points that are inside that, not only does it help the kids be great, teammates and all those kind of things, build character, loyalty, all that stuff, but it also starts talking to them about how to make their life better, or how to address things that are happening to them. I mean, God, man, we all were teenagers. I mean, I hate to say it. I grew up in the 80s, and I always think of the opening snippet of the Breakfast Club, which is a line from David Bowie about how parents don't understand what's happening to their kids. God, man, we don't understand what's happening to kids. I mean, we're 30 years removed or 40 years removed from being 18 years old. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Totally different.
And that starts that conversation, man. What a great way to start a conversation and make kids, start addressing the things that are happening to them, and be supportive and build that environment that they need, so that they can say, hey, look at me. This is happening to me. Accept that this is happening to me, and accept me for who I am, because this is it. And so watching Kristy and Mike, and they're rock stars, man, when it comes to kids, and to see kids who parents living in, I'm going to say this, kids that are homeless, that are living in their cars and stuff like that, showing up to school every day. Because why? Because, man, I'm part of the esports team, and I've got a commitment to be part of the team and go out there and make it happen. And these kids are showing up, and that I really, truly believe that this is going to change the fabric of education. And I say this because post-COVID shutdowns and all that kind of stuff, kids are coming, they're a little bit behind, because the ones that actually spend time away from school are showing up a little bit out of step of everybody else, because they were doing things from home on computers, and bad internet, and terrible computers that didn't work right. So saying that, I think that this type of educating kids, meaning using gaming as a tool, is going to be pivotal, because these kids, what do all kids do? They play games, shoot. And I'll never forget this. And I think Kristy does the best about discussing our son, Christian. He's our oldest. And anyways, she would go down there and just get on him about being on too much screen time and too much video gaming. And one day Christian basically was like, hey man, if I was down here, working on, I don't know, being a better tuba player, because that's what he played in school. So if I was down here practicing tuba, or if I was down here, writing a paper, or if I was reading a book, blah, 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 you wouldn't say anything, because if that was what I loved, it wouldn't be a big deal. But I loved a game, and my friends loved a game, and all my homies are on here, and all my boys are, doing what teenagers do, talk crap and play games, and build that, whatever their part of their community is. And so I think it dawned on her that, I mean, there's something really to this other than just gaming. I mean, it's not just mindless, wasted time. I think that the community part of it, the friendship part of it, I mean, it's incredible. saying that, and why do I think it's going to change the fabric of education, is because when they use tools like this that are so effective, I mean, holy smokes, man, kids are showing up. That's the hardest thing you can do, is get people to show up. And kids are showing up because they're committed. Like, hey, man, I'm part of the esports team. I got to be there. I mean, when a kid who's living in his car shows up because he wants to be part of the team, I mean, that's proof positive. There's something to this. And so giving this tool to the educators and saying, here's gaming concepts, follow these directions to reach your kids. This is the path, is incredible. I mean, I really, truly believe, I mean, they're on the spearhead of what's going to be different in education going forward.
So, and thank you those who are in the chat here. Karen, hello, welcome. Karen Fiona Smith, she is a great other leader in our space out here in esports. She runs another organization called Bridging the Gap Esports, and a mom who has a kid, like going into not military school, medical school, I believe. Karen, you can correct me. And one of them, and then another one who got recruited by one of the top esport college programs this last year at Northwood. And so she really is deep into this, and I've loved how we've had this conversation today. And I want to. How proud do you feel about your wife being an award-winning curriculum writer? And I think, is she principal of the year in the state of Kansas at one point?
Yeah, she was principal of the year. Well, here's the deal. She's like famous, and it's weird. Like people like the people that are in the esports community, and especially the ones that are like in edutech and all that kind of stuff, meaning education and technology. Mike and Kristy are like rock stars. It's kind of cool. They're so excited to talk to them. It's like, and the thing is that I don't know if you can tell, but I really like to talk, and I've always been like this, and it came to me straight from my mom, same way. So long story short, Kristy same way, and they'll stay and talk to anybody about anything, and I'm super proud. I mean, I can't even speak to, I mean, somebody who so selflessly gave the original gaming concept to Mason, AJ, and Charlie in a parking lot. And I'll never forget, what a great story. She was like, here's gaming concepts, you can have it, but there's only one rule to this deal. Use it however you want, but you can't sell it, because this is the difference between those who have and have not. Let's not do that. And so they took it, and those three young gentlemen were basically living in a code closet trying to make HSCL and happen. And gaming concept went up on the this little Microsoft education site, and it was hit over 500,000 times. And so it speaks to my wife's one of the people she admires most in all of time and history is Mother Teresa. And Mother Teresa was so selflessly giving herself to the folks of Calcutta. Like, what a great example. And so I don't want to say Kristy's like Mother Teresa, but that is one of her idols, somebody that she really takes a lot of.
I know that.
You didn't know that? Yeah. So she loves Mother Teresa, and there's great books about her. But anyways, I really believe that, you know, some of the stuff that she wrote has impacted Kristy, and she's really taken it to heart that there's a disparity between those who have and those who have not, and trying to level that playing field so that everybody gets a chance or gets an opportunity or can participate is huge to her. And so giving gaming concepts away makes me more proud than anything. Like, what an incredible selfless thing to do. Because, well, just for example, 500,000 downloads off of Microsoft Education is incredible. And if you sold that for $1, that's $500,000. I mean, if you really look at it, like, that's pretty selfless.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty awesome. And Mike is 100% about it too.
Yeah, let's not forget about Mike Russell, who considers himself the shadow of
He's
Dr.
not the
Kristy.
shadow.
Oh, Mike.
There's Batman and Robin, Salt and Pepper.
Oh, okay. There we go. That's a good analogy.
Mike and Kristy.
Mike likes to in all the interviews, and I'm kind of chatting with him on the side here, in all the shows and everything. It's, I just follow Kristy around, or I'm just here, and
not true.
it's not true, Mike. Not true.
Drew's like, and here's the funny thing: Mike's like 6'3", big gigantic guy. Nobody's following anybody around. But anyway, so I'll say this though:
tall.
Mike's as pivotal as Kristy. I mean, when they wrote that together, so they had to choose that they were giving this away together. It wasn't a single person making that decision. And so saying that, Mike's the same way. And I mean, I couldn't, and here's the deal. I interact with hundreds of people every day because that's my job in the Army. Just like everybody else, I get 150 emails a day at least where I'm addressing issues for individual soldiers and so on and so forth. So when it comes to talking about like good teams and people who work well together, blah, 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 Kristy and Mike are awesome. I mean, what great teammates. And, they've written more curriculum stuff and they're working on even more stuff. And I say this too, because I'm Kristy's husband and she tells me about the things that she's doing and the stuff that's still inside her head that she hasn't even put on paper is incredible.
Right.
And so saying that between the two of them, Mike and Kristy, they travel all over, they speak, like I said, you asked me like, how I feel about it. It's neat. They are really famous. Like
this is true.
Crazy.
This is true. It's true. Oh, and if you're out there, well, go ahead. Finish that thought. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say they're going to go to FETC in January, and they'll have a flock of people trying to.
Oh yes.
Talk to them.
Yes, they do.
And it's incredible.
If you're out there, gamingconcepts.gg is the website. I put it in some of the chats. I'll try to get in all the chats. Gamingconcepts.gg. And I love what Brian Kelly from STEM.org, who their organization has accredited the curriculum, as well as HSCL and our nonprofit and many other organizations in the gaming space. Brian Kelly says they are the guidepost, definitely celebrity status. And Karen also says that's one of the many things I love about her, and we can just say all those things that definitely we all love about your wife, and definitely Mike as well. And so yes, gaming concepts. I do believe when they go to FETC, I know when they were there, many of them were there last time. A lot of the folks knew them. They knew some of the regional representatives like Frog, who was on staff at HSCL recently, and how they would know Frog. From being one of the people at HSCL. Many people get to know these people over their experiences in esports and gaming, but I'm super excited to see the new curriculum come out, and I've gotten to see the demos, or the samples, I guess is the word, and it's really exciting. And there's a lot of what I've understood. And maybe Brian, from your experience talking with your wife, because she probably talks about this, is the curriculum can be a lot of things. It can be actually, surprisingly, I made some curriculum the other day with artificial intelligence. I said to artificial intelligence, the new Chat GPT thing. It's out because I've been living it for the past 4 or 5 days, and it's all I've done with my whole life is get on the computer and make AI answer questions and create things out of nowhere. And I said, hey, make a lesson plan for 4th graders in bowling. And me, as someone who has a recreation management degree, and I did lesson plans and could have taught PE or whatever, or worked on a cruise ship. It just depended on what I would do. The lesson plan idea, seeing those things, it's been really fun. But curriculum could be anything, and it's fun to see that this stuff that Mike and Kristy do. Thanks, Karen. That Mike and Kristy do, this curriculum is not just a lesson plan, and it's not just, hey, think about some stuff and ask your kids these questions. Cool, see you later. It is very detailed and very thought out. And sitting with Kristy and her asking me questions like, well, how would you want the teacher to learn And how would you want the teacher to say these things to help the kid learn is just one step. And how do you want them to talk? And then how do you want to engage the kids with resources and links and videos and other things? And it's just blown my mind to make me think about how to write curriculum a lot differently, because I teach in the collegiate space, and I've been teaching in the collegiate space for 9 years. And I wrote curriculum out of nothing for referees, because no one really had a college course for referees. And so it's definitely shaped my courses this year a lot differently, and rewriting my curriculum and my syllabus. But when I think about the curriculum, gaming concepts, and what's happening, how do you see it performing, or what do you see it accomplishing even more in the next few years with this new curriculum coming out, whether it be all the different courses they have coming, or just how it can support these schools to give them the chocolate on the broccoli, or the opportunities for kids to come in and use curriculum as a way to get them in the class through gaming?
You know, that's a great question, because here I think gaming concept is like a stepping stone. Because I know some of the other stuff that they're developing, obviously based on shoutcasting and cyber security and all the, this is all encompassing, meaning it's going to mean not just gaming. It's going to be all the details that make up online community, meaning, gaming's the first step, but I hate to talk about Zuckerberg and his Meta, but, a lot of people are going to move online. They're a good significant portion of their life is going to be online in the future. And this is going to be in my opinion, this is the beginning. I mean, it has to have a genesis somewhere, and this is the genesis. And so getting kids in school is using esports is a huge part of it, but getting them to learn the meta space, I think this is going to be huge for it. I mean, we're looking at, I think of myself, man, because when I was in school, we had Commodore 64 computers. And if anybody doesn't know what that is, it basically was like a keyboard that had a tape player. And I'd probably hold up a cassette tape, and 90% of the people in the audience would be like, what is that? So long story short, and where we are now is incredible. I mean, just right here with my laptop, I'm like, just the light speed that we've traveled in 30 years, and where will we be 10 years down the road?
Yeah.
But I think that this is just the beginning. And like I said, this whole thing about changing the fabric of education, getting away from the misconception that we only want to do certain things with our kids. I mean, the world's a big place and expanding all the time, and technology is moving so fast. The development of technology is moving so fast, giving these kids a jump start here in high school, and then taking it to the collegiate level where they're going to, have an opportunity to do even more with it. I think this is just the beginning. And what's so cool about it is, just look back in the last 5 years, what we've done. And you look forward, what's it going to be like 5 years from now? Because gaming concepts was this little bound thing that they gave to somebody in a parking lot. Here we are, HSEL and Generation Esports. You guys have, your fingers are now in thousands and thousands of school. And I'm going to give a shout out, Kristen Kraft, Trevor Gertzen, Shima, all those guys are out there making this happen every day. You guys are rock stars, man. Wild men out there selling this stuff to the school, saying this is really truly something good and valuable for your kids. And because they're doing that, the more and more that get touched by this, Bubba, there's some kid out there who's the next Zuckerberg, who's the next Twitter guy, the next Elon Musk, the next, and they just don't know it yet. And something like this is a good spot and a good start for what's going to happen in the future. And to have Kristy be a part of that, man, I always say she's a pioneer of esports, and that's fun to say. And she's super, super humble and everything like that. And you guys know this, but I'm like, man, you guys are awesome. And Mike too. And and I love this. And I got to throw a shout out to Chris Jensen too.
Please.
Yeah. So I've read Chris's stuff. I mean, his white paper is like incredible. And when they publish that thing and it actually goes out into circulation, I think it's going to open up a lot of people's understanding of how this is helping kids. And if anybody's ever not been in education and don't understand, because I haven't formally taught in a classroom, but I live with an educator who is truly about the kids. But people who haven't been in education, when you can give a teacher a tool that is effective and works, I mean, you're just lifting the world off of a teacher's shoulders. And you said in your comment before about, it's not just saying, hey, do this with your kids, think about that. If you really look in there and read the stuff, because I've read Gaming Concept, read all of it, and looked at all of the different things that they're trying to implement in the classroom using esports, this is an incredibly powerful tool. And if educators take that tool and really apply it and do due diligence and do the entire course, like if you choose, like we're going to do this today, blah, 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 and do the full course, the benefit to the student is 100-fold to what they would do in another class, in my opinion. So it's just crazy. Like I said, if I had to sum it up, I would say that we're just on the cusp of what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And and I know you're working on shoutcasting with Kristy and stuff like that. I mean, like I'd never even heard of shoutcasting, but now that I read all this stuff, I'm like, man, that's awesome. I want to be a shoutcaster, man. I want to be the guy in the ring. You know what I mean? So long story short, even I'm 55 years old, and every day that I read some of this stuff, I'm like, man, that's cool. And I'll say it one more time for all the guys that are out there taking it into the schools and saying, hey, this is good stuff, like Trevor and Kristen and Shima and Andrew and all those guys. I mean, they are the foot soldiers of change, and they're going to make it happen. And it's awesome. And like I said, 5 years from now, I'm going to be 60 years old because I'm going to beat cancer because I know this. And long story short, I'm going to roll over and look at my wife and say, man, I'm living with somebody famous.
Well, let's wrap up with. So, if you're just tuning in, you're catching the end of this. Please, when it's done here in about 5 minutes, you can go back and rewatch this on multiple platforms: Twitch, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. You can rewatch this if you'd like, and maybe we'll take some clips out of this. We've talked about so much. We've talked about your master's in education, your certification in MRT, which is Master's Resiliency Trainer, and we've talked about cancer treatment, and we've talked about trauma, and we've talked about education and curriculum and esports. So if you want to learn a few things, please rewatch this, or if you've been around, share this, because it's been really, really helpful, especially for me, learning and hearing what you have to say. I want to ask this last question on mental health, because I love that you said that we've kind of evolved a little bit, especially in the military space, and it becoming more an accepted thing. I was diagnosed with ADHD last summer, and I got to start on medication that was a non-stimulant. And last summer I did a 90-day video game fast from video games, and I lost 40 pounds, and I had a ton of fun. And I'm doing another video game fast right now. I'm at 3 weeks in, and the acceptance of talking about it, especially me not really believing that ADHD was a thing or mental health was something. I had a mother, unfortunately, growing up. Sorry, Mom. That told me that depression is not real because Jesus loves you. So, yes, this is stuff I talk about in therapy. But anyways, as I move on here, I want to talk about mental health and how you prioritize your own mental health, as well as being a cancer survivor, and what kind of tools can you give to those out there who have are maybe in the wheel of neurodivergence and have mental health issues. And what is your last bit of advice here in the last 2 minutes?
So my first and foremost thing is if you think that something's happening, reach out to somebody. And I say that for friends I've lost to suicide. So if you think that something's wrong, reach out to somebody, because you, and I believe this is true about all humans. I mean, we know when things aren't going right. We know when we're not feeling good, we're depressed and things are bothering us. So simply reaching out to somebody and having that conversation could be the difference between somebody committing suicide and not. So the second part too is for myself. When I found out I had cancer, and this is really, and I hope this doesn't make anybody feel bad who's had cancer or fought cancer. I knew that the good Lord had a different path for me. That, yeah, I'm going to get cancer and it's going to be horrific and awful and terrible. But I know the good Lord, without a doubt, was going to deliver me from this. I still got to go through the chemo and do all this stuff. My faith is so pivotal to how I think, that I just believe that this isn't what's going to kill me. So long story short, I deal with it every day just like anybody else does. I choose to be positive. I choose to go to work. I choose to make a difference. I choose. So I think that's the biggest part of what I do is I make a choice, a conscious choice to do it. So not everybody's capable to do that, and I understand that, and that's why we're here to help you, and especially in the Army. It's hard at the beginning to understanding that everything you're doing is a choice that you make. And I always say this, I tell my soldiers, why worry about something that you can't affect? Worry about what you can affect. Well, I can't take cancer out of me. So what can I affect? I can get up every day and go to work and do the stuff I got to do, and do exactly what my oncologist tells me for care. I can do exactly what my boss asks me to do at the work and do all these things. So I make these choices, and I choose to be positive, and I choose to do these things. And so if you're not capable of doing that yet, get your team. Reach out to the guys that are around you, because believe it or not, the guy left and right of you care about you more than you think. And the second you say, I need your help, they will help you. And then you'd be surprised how far guys will go. And I say guys and gals will go to help each other. We as humans already have that built into us. And so when somebody comes to you and say, hey man, I'm really struggling with this, they recognize it and help you. And some at a greater degree than others, but it's just the initial of somebody being able to say, hey, I got your back here, man. I know a guy who can help you. Get on the phone and call. And so long story short, that's all I can say. If you take anything away from today about trauma and resiliency, is that there are people out there that are trained. There are people who know and understand how it works that will, without a doubt, help you. And the other thing too is they'll equip you with the tools that it takes to be resilient on your own, and being able to identify when things are going wrong or when something terrible has happened, so that you're able to deal with it. And the thing is like I said, I until I took MRT, I never really thought about, but man, when I went to the training, it was one of the most pivotal points in my career. 35 years of military service is something I thought, man, this is really valuable, just because of all the guys that are coming back from deployment that were having trouble and having issues. And then watching people say, hey, you're doing this thing here in particular, and having the whole room watch the light bulbs light up above their head, like, wow, that's me. And so saying that, that's my advice. So the other part too, is there somebody out there that truly loves you and cares about you, and those people hold the most power in your life. In other words, I think about Kristy. She loves me, and I know this. And when I have days that things aren't, like I'm struggling or with her, just seeing her smiling faces is a huge part of my resiliency, is to know that I got somebody, a good teammate, who's always looking out for me too.
Brian Custer, Masters of Education, Major Custer, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your heart and everything today. It was wonderful.
Thank you. I appreciate it. If you ever want me to come back, I'll be glad to come back.
Well, yeah, maybe
It's fun to talk about it.
My other show, we play video games while we talk. So maybe next time we can play video games. And
awesome.
Karen in the chat, she says she just got certified as a mental health first aid responder. Who I was talking about it. So yes, mental health, I love it. We're wrapping up. Thank you everybody for being here once again. Check out, we were an hour and a half early today. It was fun. We got to jump right in. Tomorrow, actually, we're going to be talking about the metaverse tomorrow on Good Morning Gamers. And then in the afternoon, if you want to check out some more metaverse conversations and esports and gaming on DNH Live, I'll be hosting a show with Shay from Coalition of Parents in Esports on their platform. And you can check that out on my Twitter. Please, we're going to talk about metaverse tomorrow, so please come back and we'll ask a lot of tough questions. And man, Brian, once again, thank you so much for coming on and just sharing your heart and teaching us all some really important things.
Hey, I'm honored to be a part of it. Thanks for having me, Bubba. I appreciate it.
Well, you can hang out in the back room, and I'm gonna close down the show, and I'll come chat with you back in the back room again.
You bet. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Really, it's been amazing. I couldn't be more happy with the information that I received today. And as someone who is just hoping to share this message with those who need it, please, if you need to rewatch this or understand what's going on, if you have questions, if you have thoughts and you're like, this is bogus, I don't believe it, go back and learn and listen. And thank you everyone for being in the chat. Karen and Brian and Mike Russell for being here, as well as Dr. Tom. Thank you all for being here on different platforms, and as well as over on Twitch. We had Random Rick review. Thank you so much for being here. Everyone, we're going to check out some information from some of our friends at Gaming Concepts on their amazing website. So here you go. See ya.
Hello, my name is Kristy Custer. As a public educator for the past 24 years, I have watched as interest in esports has exploded in schools across the world. Last fall, I joined the High School Esports League and helped to establish the education department. Since then, we have been working hard to integrate esports into education to create a scholastic gaming experience where students can learn, play, and compete. With our evidence-based, STEM.org-approved gaming concepts curriculum, schools can offer 4-credit classes during the school day that help improve chronic absenteeism, student engagement, and mental health.
As a senior health advisor for High School Esports League and a former ER physician, I see the incredible need for supporting mental health in students in today's schools. In fact, schools at a formidable crossroads where a pervasive and persistent decline in youth mental health now intersects with staff burnout. This has not been a sudden problem, but rather one we've seen over decades. The American Academy of Pediatrics announced in 2019 that 1 out of 3 students meets the criteria for generalized anxiety disorder before graduation. And the CDC reaffirmed that between 2009 and 2019, depression increased in adolescents by roughly 40%. The most telltale sign that grabbed all of our hearts was when the Surgeon General announced in December of 2021 that female adolescents increased their visits to the emergency departments around the nation by 51% for suicidal ideations. In the face of this, schools are desperately seeking solutions and ways to support those that struggle with mental health challenges. Now, these statistics that I mentioned are averages. We know there are some cohorts that are at higher risk, particularly those students who do not feel they have a safe place or a legitimate connection to school. That's where esports represents a tremendous opportunity. Students who are not currently involved with sports, music, arts, and traditional extracurriculars are left with minimal opportunities to make a connection. Yet many of these students find connections to their friends and other social outlets through online activity, including gaming. So, Scholastic Gaming represents an opportunity to leverage an area of interest into a legitimate class that meets state standards and expectations, all through an evidence-based curriculum that can simultaneously support self-esteem, self-efficacy, and life skills in many kids who desperately need it.
Hi, my name is Michael Russell. During my career as a teacher, I was fortunate enough to have the support of my administrator as I began the journey to establish the first 4-credit Scholastic Gaming course in the nation. At HSEL, we have the resources and data to help you speak with your administrators about the impact that Scholastic Gaming and esports can have for your students. We have strategies that can help you with acquiring technology and curriculum, such as ESSER funds, grant applications, and partnerships. The High School Esports League has invested significant resources in helping our education partners, and we are excited about this opportunity to help you establish Scholastic Gaming in your school.
Varsity Esports Foundation. Founded in December 2018, the Varsity Esports Foundation was created by a group of esports professionals. Our mission is to create an inclusive, safe, and aspirational network of gaming communities for all. The Varsity Esports Foundation is a 501c3 organization established to offer financial assistance to schools and to provide a pipeline for students to reach their potential through esports. We have 4 foundation goals. 1. Build a network of inclusive gaming communities. 2. Create scholarships for students within these communities. 3. Ensure a safe environment for all players. And 4. Promote gaming literacy across the ecosystem. The foundation has funds for a limited amount of assistance to support schools with league fees and/or computer equipment. For more information, please visit us at varsityesportsfoundation.org. Varsity Esports Foundation, a pipeline for students to reach their potential through esports.
College esports and the CECC is back.
If they can chase sweet, sweet victory.
The CECC is back.
Will San Jose's winning streak come to an end?
College esports is back.
A ruling team story or an underdog story.
Let the series begin.
College esports is back.
So we've got something going for both of these squads. As Choi Boy's not even looking at him.
CECC is back.
They have competed at an international stage. They have been in this position before.
College esports is back. It's a new year filled with new players, but the same collegiate esports action you know and love. Join me, your host, Paulie Hype, as we kick off the first stop for the CECC Roadmap September 17th and 18th with the South Region Online Qualifier. You can catch all the action starting at 10 a.m. EST on twitch.tv/esportsu. I can't wait to see you there. It's a brand new year, and I'm just getting started. Woo! It's a year of hype. Yeah! We'll see you this weekend. Woo!
Life is busy. Every day we ask questions like, what's happening today? What should I wear? How am I going to fit everything in? But then there are bigger questions like, why am I here? What's my purpose? Where am I heading? Is there more to life than this? These are some of life's big questions, but there's rarely enough time to think them through. That's why Alpha exists. Alpha is a place to explore life's big questions in a safe and open environment. It's a series of sessions where anyone can share their thoughts and opinions and ask questions without feeling judged. When you come to an Alpha, you'll notice that first, there's food. Whether it's a full meal or a light snack, this is the time to get to know each other in a casual setting. Next, you'll watch an Alpha Talk. The talks are created to engage and spark conversation. They explore big issues around faith from a Christian perspective. After the talk is a time for discussion. This is the most essential part of any Alpha. It allows everyone to share their own opinions on the ideas presented in the talks. It's a time for people with different thoughts, beliefs, and experiences to ask honest questions and have open conversation. Every week, there are guests coming for the first time to an Alpha in their community. Alpha is for everyone, regardless of background or beliefs. There's no pressure, no follow-up, and it's completely free to attend. Come and explore life's big questions. Find an Alpha near you today.